Hello friends, in this short video we will try to reveal what actually Metaverse is. So let's start. Here we will cover when for first time in history the term Metaverse was used, followed by brief background, then we will look into the views from tech industry, what actually Metaverse is and characteristics of Metaverse. The first question that comes to our minds is that from where the term Metaverse emerged. The term Metaverse was coined by author Neal Stevenson in his 1992 novel, Snow Crash. For all its influence, Stevenson's book provided no specific definition of the Metaverse, but what he described was a persistent virtual world that reached, interacted with, and affected nearly every part of human existence. It was a place for labor and leisure, for self-actualization as well as physical exhaustion, for art alongside commerce. At any given time, there were roughly 15 million human-controlled avatars on the street, which Stevenson called the Broadway, the Champs-Élysées of the Metaverse, but stretched across the entirety of a virtual planet more than 2.5 times the size of the Earth. As a point of contrast, there were fewer than 15 million total users of the Internet in the real world the year Stevenson's novel was published. Although Stevenson coined the term Metaverse, he was far from the first to introduce the concept. In 1935, Stanley G. Weinbaum wrote a short story titled Pygmalion's Spectacles, about the invention of magical VR-like goggles that produced a movie that gives one sight and sound. You are in the story, you speak to the shadows, and the shadows reply, and instead of being on a screen, the story is all about you, and you are in it. Ray Bradbury's 1950 short story, The Veldt, imagines a nuclear family, in which the parents are supplanted by a virtual reality nursery that the children never want to leave. Philip K. Dick's 1953 story The Trouble with Bubbles is set in an era where humans have explored deep into outer space, but never succeeded in finding life. Yearning to connect with other worlds and life forms, consumers begin to buy a product called Worldcraft, through which they can build an own world. A few years later, Isaac Asimov's novel The Naked Sun was published. In it, he described a society where face-to-face interactions and physical contact are considered both wasteful and repugnant, and most work and socializing takes place via remotely projected holograms and 3D televisions. In 1984, William Gibson popularized the term cyberspace in his novel Neuromancer, defining it as a consensual hallucination experienced daily by billions of legitimate operators in every nation. The Matrix, a term repurposed by Lana and Lily Wachowski 15 years later for their film of the same name. In the Wachowskis' movie, The Matrix refers to a persistent simulation of the planet Earth, as it was in 1999, but which all of humanity is unknowingly, indefinitely, and forcibly connected to in the year 2199. The purpose of this simulation is to placate the human race, so that it can be used as bioelectric batteries by the sentient, but man-made, machines which conquered the planet in the 22nd century. Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella has described the Metaverse as a platform that turns the entire world into an app canvas, which could be augmented by cloud, software, and machine learning. No surprise. Microsoft already had a technology stack which was a natural fit for the not-quite-here Metaverse and spanned the company's operating system Windows, cloud computing offering Azure, communications platform Microsoft Teams, augmented reality headset HoloLens, gaming platform Xbox, professional network LinkedIn, and Microsoft's own metaverses including Minecraft, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and even the space-faring first-person shooter Halo. Mark Zuckerberg's articulation focused on immersive virtual reality, as well as social experiences that connect individuals who live far apart. Notably, Facebook's Oculus division is the market leader in VR, in both unit sales and investment, while its social network is the largest and most used globally. The Washington Post characterized Epic's vision of the metaverse, meanwhile, as an expansive, digitized communal space where users can mingle freely with brands and one another in ways that permit self-expression and spark joy. A kind of online playground where users could join friends to play a multiplayer game like Epic's Fortnite one moment, watch a movie via Netflix the next, and then bring their friends to test drive a new car that's crafted exactly the same in the real world as it would be in this virtual one. It would not be the manicured, ad-laden newsfeed presented by platforms like Facebook. So what exactly Metaverse is? A massively scaled and interoperable network of real-time rendered, 3D, virtual worlds that can be experienced synchronously and persistently by an effectively unlimited number of users, with an individual sense of presence, and with continuity of data, such as identity, history, entitlements, objects, communications, and payments. Now let's explore the characteristics of Metaverse in detail. Virtual worlds. If there's any aspect of the metaverse on which everyone from believers to skeptics, and even those barely familiar with the term can agree, it's that it is based on virtual worlds. For decades, the primary reason to build a virtual world was for a video game, such as The Legend of Zelda or Call of Duty, or as part of a feature film, such as those of Disney's Pixar, or for Warner Bros. The Matrix. This is why the metaverse is often misdescribed as a game or entertainment experience. Virtual worlds refer to any computer-generated simulated environment. These environments can be in immersive 3D, 2.5D to D, layered atop the real world via augmented reality, or purely text-based, as in the game-like MUDs, and non-game-like MUSHs of the 1970s. These worlds can have no individual user as in the case of a Pixar film, or when virtually simulating an ecosphere for a biology class. In other cases, they might be limited to a single user, as when playing Legend of Zelda, or be shared with many others, as in Call of Duty. These users might affect and be affected by this virtual world through any number of devices, such as a keyboard, motion sensor, or even a camera that tracks their motion. Stylistically, virtual worlds can reproduce the real world exactly, or represent a fictionalized version of it, or represent an altogether fictional reality in which the impossible is commonplace. The purpose of a virtual world can be game-like, which is to say there is an objective such as winning, killing, scoring, defeating, or solving. Or the purpose can be non-game-like with objectives such as educational or vocational training, commerce, socializing, meditation, fitness, and more. 3D. Although virtual worlds come in many dimensions, 3D is a critical specification for the metaverse. Without 3D, we might as well be describing the current internet. Message boards, chat services, website builders, image platforms, and interconnected networks of content have been around and popular for decades. After all, 3D is necessary not just because it signals something new. Metaverse theorists argue that 3D environments are required in order to make possible the transition of human culture and labor from the physical world to the digital one. For example, Mark Zuckerberg has claimed that 3D is an inherently more intuitive interaction model for humans than 2D websites, apps, and video calls, especially in social use cases. Certainly, humans did not evolve for thousands of years to use a flat touch screen. Real-time rendered. Rendering is the process of generating a 2D, or 3D, object, or environment, using a computer program. The goal of this program is to solve an equation made up of many different inputs, data, and rules that determine what should be rendered and when, and by using various computing resources, such as a graphics processing unit and central processing unit. As is the case with any math problem, an increase in the resources available to solve it means that more complex equations can be tackled, and more detail provided in the solution. Interoperable Network. Central to most visions of the metaverse is the user's ability to take her virtual content, such as an avatar or a backpack, from one virtual world to another, where it might also be changed, sold, or remixed with other goods. For example, if I buy an outfit in Minecraft, I might then wear it in Roblox, or perhaps a hat I purchased in Minecraft would be paired with a sweater I won in Roblox while attending a virtual sporting match developed and operated by FIFA. And if attendees of the match received an exclusive item at this event, they could take it with them from that environment into others, and even sell it on third-party platforms, as though it were an original 1969 Woodstock t-shirt. Massively scaled. For the internet to be the internet, we generally accept that it has to have a seemingly infinite number of websites and pages. It can't, for example, just be a handful of portals owned by a few developers. The metaverse is similar. It must have a massively scaled number of virtual worlds if it is to be the metaverse. Otherwise, it is more like a digital theme park, a destination with a handful of carefully curated attractions and experiences that can never be as diverse as, or contend with, the outside real world. Persistence. Earlier, I discussed the idea of persistence in a virtual world. Almost no current games demonstrate full persistence. Instead, they run for a finite period before resetting part, or all of their virtual worlds. Consider the hit games Fortnite and Free Fire. Throughout a match, players build or destroy various structures, set fire to forests, or kill wildlife, but after roughly 20 to 25 minutes, the map effectively ends and is discarded by Epic Games and gone and never to be re-experienced by a player, even if they retain items won or unlocked during that match. In fact, even within a given match, the virtual world discards data, such as a bullet mark on an indestructible rock, which might unload after 30 seconds in order to reduce render complexity. Synchronous. We don't want virtual worlds in the metaverse to merely persist or respond to us in real time. We also want them to be shared experiences. For this to work, every participant in a virtual world must have an internet connection capable of transmitting large volumes of data in a given time, as well as a low latency and continuous connection to a virtual world server. This might not seem like an outlandish requirement. After all, tens of millions of homes are probably streaming high-definition video at this moment, while much of the global economy ran via live and synchronous video conference software throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And broadband provider continue to boast about and deliver improvements in bandwidth and latency, with internet outages becoming less common each day. Unlimited users and individual presence. Although Stevenson did not provide an exact date, various references in Snow Crash suggest the novel takes place in the mid to late 2010s. Stevenson's metaverse, which was roughly 2.5 times the size of Earth, was occupied by twice the population of New York City 3 at any given time. In total, 120 million of the roughly 8 billion people who lived in Stevenson's fictional, real world had access to computers powerful enough to handle the metaverse's protocol and could join whenever they liked. In our real world, we are nowhere close to achieving the same. How far are we? Even non-persistent virtual worlds that are less than 10 square kilometers in surface area, severely constrained in functionality, operated by the most successful video game companies in history, and running on even more powerful computing devices, still struggle to sustain more than 50 to 150 users in a shared simulation. What's more, 150 concurrent users is a significant achievement, and only possible because of how these titles are creatively designed. In Fortnite Battle Royale, up to 100 players can participate in a richly animated virtual world, and each player controls a detailed avatar that can use more than a dozen different items, perform dozens of dances and maneuvers, and build complex structures tens of stories tall. However, Fortnite's roughly 5 kilometers to map means that only 1 dozen to 2 dozen players will run across one another at once, and by the time players are forced into a smaller portion of the map, most players have been eliminated and turned into data on a scoreboard.